Here on Baneshake, when I'm not making inappropriate sex jokes, gags about Assassin's Creed, or inappropriate sex jokes about Assassin's Creed, one topic I have frequently begun to discuss is my lifelong journey with depression. Don't go anywhere, it's way more fun than I make it sound, I promise. In that talk, though, there's a particular key factor that I think would be useful to bring up, and one that I think could probably have a positive impact in more people's discussion of depression, and that is the impact a religious upbringing can have on your depression, in this case on my depression. For those of you who don't know the context, I was raised in the United Methodist Church. I was a very strong believer in the Methodist version of Christianity for a very large portion of my life. My father is a United Methodist minister, and that was just normal. That everything I knew was Methodism growing up. Additionally, and though not entirely connected just yet, I started displaying depression around the age of 9, maybe, I think it was. So, these two details aren't intrinsically linked. But the first definitely made the second worse as things went on. And not even in the ways that you might first suspect. If you are trying to link depression and religion, you'd probably run into the train of thought that, oh, the church tells you you're guilty for doing this, or thinking this, or being this way, so naturally you're going to feel depressed because it's making you feel bad about yourself. And while sure, that is a very valid argument that can be made, and those things certainly can be connected to someone's depression, that's not what I'm primarily talking about today. What I am referring to is actually one of the things that the church tries to do in a positive and uplifting kind of a way that honestly just makes things worse. You see, not only amongst Methodism, but other denominations that I was exposed to in smaller portions from friends or family members as we'd go to church with them, was this very, very common lesson in sermons or just in discussions about how only God will give you true happiness, that any happiness you get from the world or any happiness you get from earthly things, it's not real. That's not actually going to bring you fulfillment. So at a young age, hearing this kind of thing, it's that mindset of, oh, I'm unhappy. I must be spending too much time with Bionicle instead of the Lord. You did this to me, didn't you, you son of a bitch? And so, as a kid who grew up absorbing all of this, it was not uncommon to just think, yeah, well, that has to be the case. Look at all these family members, look at all these church members who are saying the same thing. It's gotta be true. When depression starts setting in, and you've got this mindset as a kid, it turns into, I'm just not happy. Am I not doing good enough? I need to try harder. And it turns into the cycle of, I'm not happy. These people claim to know how to be happy. I must not be doing it right. And the more you feel like, well, I'm not doing it right, the harder you feel like you have to try. The harder you feel like you have to try unsuccessfully, the more and more you start to feel like, well, I'm just not succeeding. I'm doing something wrong. This has to be my fault. In particular, you would hear specific instances of these church leaders or these family members, or both in my case, where there would be these stories they would tell specifically talking about this great connection that they had with the Lord and how they felt true joy. In my father's case, it was this story about how when he officially accepted Christ into his heart, there in front of the church. I believe this was at a Southern Baptist church when he was growing up, but the concept's still the same. But he's there. He accepts the Lord into his heart. It's in front of the congregation, and in his words, he could just feel the presence of the Lord upon him, and it was the most powerful feeling. And if I'm remembering that story correctly, it's one of the most significant experiences he ever had in his life. So, as a kid, that part sinks in too, and it becomes this concept of, you know what, maybe it'll happen, and maybe everything will just click when I'm actually confirmed. So, the confirmation process for the United Methodist Church is kind of a big deal. It is the moment where someone is truly saved. It's the choice that they make to accept the Lord into their heart. And around the age of early high school, in my case, late middle school, they tend to encourage the kids in the youth program to go into confirmation if they feel like they're ready for it. And so we go through it and we learn all the in-depth lessons, all the trickier philosophies, the way the Methodist Church believes them, things like free will and why that matters so much to Methodism, why it matters that we choose to love God. And the church makes a big deal about it too, because confirmation, when you had a few people ready to do it, they'd all go up in front of the congregation on a Sunday morning and they'd, go through all the questions that the pastor asks, and then each of the kids accepts the Lord into their heart and they're confirmed. They become an official church member as far as the numbers go for counting church members, all of that kind of a thing. It's such a big deal that I actually had a Sunday school teacher who, for my official confirmation Bible, because, you got to have a Bible if you're going to believe in Jesus, he even took it in and had my name engraved and inked on there as just a nice touch. I'd like to point out that the Sunday school teacher who did that also taught that birds aren't animals because the book of Genesis lists them in a different place of creation than the animals. This Sunday school teacher was also a public school teacher. But that's neither here nor there. Confirmation Sunday. The moment that a depressed kid is thinking, well, here's where it's going to make sense. It's going to click. I'm going to feel the presence of the Lord. All this hard work's going to happen. I'm going to find happiness. We're up there. We're going through the usual things. They ask me all the different questions. It's this feeling of adrenaline for sure, sort of like you're about to go on for a school play, or you're about to go up to do some sort of reading in front of a bunch of people. It's that feeling where you've just got the sort of jittery nerves because it's this high energy moment. There's a lot of people. But the time comes to accept everything, to profess my faith. And I do, everyone up there does. That's what we're there for. We've all agreed to this. And nothing changed. Nothing changes at all. I still feel jittery. I still feel sort of that nerve-ending feeling from all the energy in the room, but nothing changes. So, naturally, the cycle just gets worse from there. It's, I don't feel it, so therefore, this is my fault. Of course, the things I know now about depression, it's pretty clear that it's not the depressed person's fault that they are feeling the way they are. It's a matter of just brain chemistry. I'm no scientist, but I can sum it up pretty well. A normal brain creates the happy chemicals. A depressed brain is not creating the happy chemicals the way it's supposed to be. So when you're looking at a situation where there's a lot of high energy, a lot of celebration, a healthy mind is naturally going to have this huge rush of endorphins. It's naturally going to be celebrating along with it. In an unhealthy brain, where your brain's already having trouble creating the chemical concoction to lift your spirits, then no, it's probably not going to do the same thing. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that my father or other people don't have some sort of real experience, because I don't have any strong evidence that says it couldn't happen. But looking at things from my shoes, it makes perfect sense that I'm not having this situation as a kid. My brain just, it's not wired that way. It can't have that kind of sensation or that kind of excitement in the heat of the moment. This moment of feeling God's presence, it's not something that young Charlie was at fault for lacking. It was just not possible. Dwelling with that kind of thing on a young conscience for years and years, it will take its toll. But that's just one person's experience, of course. I definitely would like to open the floor up to anyone else who has similar experiences or different experiences that you think would be relevant to this conversation. I actively encourage you, please, share your thoughts down in the comments below. This is going to be a place I try to keep civil for everyone down there. Try not to get too up in arms. I know these topics can be very hot button with a lot of people. If you did like the video, please drop a like, and if you want to see more random content that I come up with, please do subscribe. It's not always this introspective. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's pretty irreverent instead. If you're interested in seeing the other types of content I do make, please feel free. Go down, check out some of my recent stuff. You'll have to go a few weeks back to find my more in-depth stuff. My computer's been busted for well more than a month now, something like a month and a half, 2 months, somewhere in there. If you want to help support this channel and fundraising for a new computer, there is a link down in the description. Currently, the fundraiser is the fastest way I'm getting a new computer. It's going to take a few more months pretty intensively to get my wife's student loans paid off, so without the fundraiser getting me there sooner, it's very likely going to be near the end of the year before I'm able to afford a new one on my own. Definitely don't mean to just beg strangers for internet money anonymously, but hey, desperate times. Anyway, stay safe out there, everyone, and thanks for watching.